Paint is one of those things that sounds simple until you're standing in front of a wall of swatches at the paint store, having a minor crisis because every shade of white looks exactly the same and yet also completely different, and you have no idea how any of them are going to look in the actual room. And if you're working with a client, that crisis could be happening in front of someone who is paying you to know what you're doing. So today we're going to talk about how to actually approach paint color selection that gets you to a result your client is happy with and that you can stand behind professionally. The first thing to understand is that paint color does not exist in a vacuum. The color on the chip is almost never the color on the wall. So what changes it? Everything. The light in the room, natural light, the direction the room faces, what time of day it is, the flooring, the furniture, the fixed elements that are already in the space. Even the colors in adjacent rooms affect how a paint color reads. A cool gray that looks perfect in the store can pull completely purple on a north-facing wall in the afternoon. A warm white that looks beautiful in a bright showroom can look yellow and tired in a room with limited natural light. This is why you cannot select paint colors from a chip alone, ever. And this is also one of the first things you can educate your clients on because most of them are doing exactly that, picking a color off a small piece of cardstock under fluorescent lighting and wondering why it looks wrong on their walls. Before you look at a single swatch, you need to know what you're working with. The fixed elements in a space, like flooring, tile, cabinetry, countertops, any architectural detail that isn't changing, those are your starting points. Not your inspiration board, not what your client saw on Instagram, the room itself. Pull the undertones out of those fixed elements first. If you have warm-toned hardwood floors, you need to know whether they pull orange or yellow or pink. If there's existing tile, what's the dominant undertone? Because those undertones are going to interact with whatever goes on the walls, whether you plan for it or not. So it's just better to plan for it. This is also how you narrow the field before you even get into specific colors. If the fixed elements are warm, you're probably working in a warm palette. If they're cool, same thing. You're not choosing between every color that exists. You're choosing within a range that actually makes sense for the space. Let's talk about undertones specifically because this is where a lot of newer designers get tripped up, and it's also where a lot of client regret comes from. Every paint color has an undertone, even white, especially white. And the undertone is what you're really managing when you're selecting color because it's what determines whether a color feels right or slightly off in a space. The most common version of this problem is white. A client wants white walls. Simple, right? But the thing is, white is not a color, it's a category. And within that category, there are whites that pull blue, whites that pull green, whites that pull pink, whites that pull yellow. And if you put a white with a blue undertone next to warm wood tones, it's going to feel cold and disconnected in a way that the client won't be able to articulate, but will definitely feel. So when you're selecting any color, white, gray, beige, anything, you need to identify the undertone first and then assess whether that undertone works with the fixed elements in the space. That's kind of the main job. Quick pause. If you're learning this stuff and you're finding that the more you learn, the more questions you have, that's actually a good sign. It means you're getting into the real work of this. And if you want somewhere to bring those questions, I have something for you. I built a course and a coaching program that is exactly what I wish I had when I was starting out. Every question you have right now, I've had them too. I've spent a lot of time in an industry that doesn't love giving away information freely, and I built the resource that would have saved me so much time. The link is in the description. Go take a look. Once you've narrowed down your options based on the fixed elements and the undertones, you test in the room, on the actual walls, in large samples, not a 2-inch swatch stuck to the wall with a thumbtack. A real painted sample that's big enough to actually read. And you look at it at different times of day. Morning light, afternoon light, evening light with the artificial light on, because a color that works beautifully in the morning can look completely different by 4 in the afternoon, and your client is going to be living with it at all of those times. This step sounds obvious, but it gets skipped constantly, usually because of timeline pressure or because the client is confident they love the color and doesn't want to wait. Your job is to hold the line on this. Testing is not optional. It's the part of the process that prevents the phone call 3 weeks after painting where your client tells you something feels off and they can't figure out why. Now let's talk about the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Selecting paint color is as much about managing your client as it is about the color itself. Clients come in with reference images, with colors they've loved in other spaces, with strong opinions about what they want. And sometimes those opinions are right for the space, and sometimes they're not. Your job is to take their input seriously and also be honest with them when something isn't going to work and explain why. This is where educating your client becomes really important. When you can explain why a color that they love on a Pinterest board isn't going to read the same way in their north-facing living room. When you can walk them through the undertone, the light, what it's going to interact with, they start trusting the process. They don't feel like you're dismissing their taste, they feel like you're protecting their investment. And when the final result looks good, they know why it looks good, which is a very different experience than just hoping for the best and painting over it if it doesn't work. Here are a few practical things that will make your life easier. Get familiar with a few paint lines really well, rather than trying to know every color every brand makes. Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, and Farrow & Ball are worth knowing inside out. When you know a line well, you know how the colors behave, you know the undertones, you know what works with what. Keep notes. Every project, write down what you selected, what worked, what didn't, and why. That's a reference library you're building for yourself that no design program is going to give you. It comes from doing the work. And don't be afraid to bring options to a client rather than one definitive answer. Presenting 2 or 3 directions that work for the space and letting the client make the final call within those guardrails is good design practice. You're curating the options for them. Paint color is one of those things that looks effortless when it's done well and very obvious when it's not. The good news is that the process is learnable. It's not just about innate talent. It's understanding light and undertones and fixed elements and how they all talk to each other. And like anything, the more you practice it, the more instinctive it becomes. If you're building your design business right now and you want support through all of the learning curves that come with that, not just color, but clients, pricing, process, all of it, the link in the description is worth a look. I built a course and coaching program out of everything I had to figure out the hard way, and I'm confident that wherever you are in this process, I've been there and I have answers. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.